I promise you guys, I was going to wait until Monday to share these new statistics. However, had a talk with my team in the back, and I was like, man, I got time to go ahead and go live so we can get these new marriage statistics out as soon as possible. And I want to be the first to share with you all and also break them down step by step so you guys can basically understand what we're talking about. And we're going to compare those to 2020's statistics. Because if you look on blackdemographics.com, they have the statistics that we're usually quoting from 2020, and it was reported in 2021. These were actually reported from the year 2022. And they were just released in the first quarter of 2024. And when I tell you guys, it's going to open some eyes because we're going to look at an overall encompassing view of what Black marriage looks like, not only in the African-American community, but in the Black community as a whole. Because blackdemographics.com, they sorted it from African-American instead of putting the whole Black American population. And that number has increased over the past couple of years. This is new information, and we're going to break it down step by step. I mentioned this before. I said when the new marriage statistics come out, it's going to give you an overall view of what marriage looks like in the Black community as a whole. And it's going to shock some people because this is, like I said, it's everybody. Caribbean, African, African-American, so on and so forth. Whoever identifies as Black, that's what we're looking at, right? And we're going to see what populations increase, what populations decrease. And we're going to look at the separated numbers, divorce, all that type of stuff. I think the Black community needs to see this. So the number of Black people living in the United States reached a new high of 47.9 million in 2022. The marriage statistics are going to correlate with the population statistics. They were both reported in 2022, up about a third, 32% since 2000. So this goes back to that one drop rule. I know you guys hear the Black community talk about this, which basically means if you have one drop of Black blood in your system, then you can identify yourself as Black. That's why they said this group is diverse. So instead of just looking at the African-American population, which would alleviate the Caribbean, Black folks, and also members from the continent, Black people from the continent, we're looking at the whole group, which is very important because typically we only look at the people in the U.S. So instead of alleviating them from the population, we're putting all of them together. In this analysis, the Black population is made up of three main groups: single race, non-Hispanic Black people, non-Hispanic multiracial Black people, and Black Hispanics. So notably, the number of people self-identifying as another race in addition to Black has increased nearly 254%. We are becoming a more interracial type of culture. It's just something that we're going to have to accept. The Black community as a whole cannot afford to be dismissing people from our pool of successful millionaires, entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. We can't afford to do that because this is the future. 2022, 47.9 million people identify as Black. The people who identified as Black and Hispanic was 2.9 million. Multiracial, 5.4 million Black people identify as multiracial. Look at that increase from 2000, 1.5 million to now 5.4 million. And then you go to 2010, 2.5 million to 5.4 million. Single race, 39.6 million. So typically what we hear in these spaces, people use the number of 42 million Black folks because you have about 22 million Black women and 20 million Black men. That number comes from African Americans as a whole. So let's look at the 2021 marriage statistics. These were reported from 2020, reported in 2021. 85% of Black men had a Black wife. 8% had a white spouse, 4% had a Hispanic spouse, and 3% had other. Were married to another race of women. And I want you guys to see something. So I want to be very clear on this. Look at the top there. What does it say? Black marriage in 2021. Among non-Hispanic African Americans aged 15 and up. It's only certain states that you can get married at 15 or some foolery like that, but I didn't include those. They only reported the numbers for African Americans. Now let's look at black women. 93% of them had a black husband, as opposed to 4% with a white husband, 2% with Hispanic, and 1% other. 33% of black men were married, as opposed to 27% of black women, 30% combined. This is what y'all came to see. These are the new statistics. Starting here, black men in the U.S. are more likely than black women to be married to someone who is not black. Let's stop right there. What did I tell you? Nothing changes. These numbers have been the same and they have been steady for about 30 years now. Black men are more likely to be married to non-black women. Even though Loving versus Virginia, a white man and a black woman were actually responsible for interracial marriage.
On a hot summer night in 1958, law enforcement officers burst into the bedroom of Mildred and Richard Loving and placed them under arrest. The Lovings hadn't gone on a crime spree, but they were public enemies in the eyes of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Mr. and Mrs. Loving were thrown in jail for getting married, an act prohibited in Virginia, all because the Lovings didn't share the same skin color. The legal battle that followed culminated in the United States Supreme Court decision of Loving versus Virginia, which would forever cast the Lovings among the heroes of the civil rights movement. Richard Loving, a white man, and Mildred Loving, an African American and Native American woman, were married in Washington, D.C. after falling in love as teenagers in rural Virginia. However, their return to Virginia and cohabitation as husband and wife violated the Commonwealth's anti-miscegenation law known as the Racial Integrity Act. The act forbade interracial marriages, specifically marriages between white people and those who qualified as, quote, colored, unquote. After their arrest, both Mr. and Mrs. Loving pled guilty to violating the anti-miscegenation law. Rather than serving 1 year in prison, the Lovings accepted a suspended sentence and were banished from Virginia for 25 years. The Lovings later filed a motion to vacate the state court judgment, which the trial court denied. The Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals affirmed. The United States Supreme Court granted cert. In the court's view, depriving individuals of such a fundamental right on the basis of race violated the Due Process Clause. Accordingly, the court reversed the judgment of the Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals and overturned the Lovings' convictions. Justice Stewart wrote separately to emphasize his continued belief that laws criminalizing behavior only when perpetrated by a member of a particular race are repugnant to the Constitution. Loving was a major step forward for the civil rights movement. The court's ruling invalidated interracial marriage bans in 16 states. The ruling also affirmed the importance of personal choice in the exercise of the freedom to marry.
That's another point that I try and make to divestors or swellers. Even though black women led the narrative of interracial marriages, those men still aren't marrying y'all, and black men still lead. Among married black adults percentage who are married to someone who is, so all of black adults is 83%. 17% are married to non-black. Black men, 79% are married to black women, as opposed to 21% are currently married to non-black women. Black women increased to 87%. 13% are married to non-black men. So, if you go back to the 2020, 2021 numbers, what did I just tell you? 15% of black men were married to non-black women. Now it's 21%. That is a 6% increase. And remember, this encompasses all black men, not just African American, all black men. Black women from 93% to now 87%. That is another 6% difference. And we're including all black women. Nothing has changed in regards to black men marrying outside of their race, even when you include Caribbean black men, African black men from the continent. Nothing has changed. Same thing for black women. So when you include that racial, those groups, nothing changes. So now let's look at black men. A little over 1 out of 5 married black men are married to a non-black woman. 1 out of 5. That is crazy. Now y'all gonna start listening, black community? Every time we have these conversations about, black women being more marriageable than black men, or, black women, you have to exclude the number of black men who are in prison, so on and so forth. They never include the fact that black men are going to continue to progress more so than black women. And they have the same way in marriage. Yes, black women have increased 6% as well, but not to the point that 1 out of 5 of black women are married out. That's black men now. And I even broke it down for you guys. Let's go step by step. Let me show you something. So in 2020, 93% of married black women were married to black men, while 7% were married to non-black men. Married black women, in 2020, it was 26%. 2022, it is now 29%. And I also added a caveat. I added the 3% if you add the separated, because I've seen some videos around there where people were trying to refute the evidence. Well, if you add the separated population of black women, then they're more married than black men. Absolutely not. I did this for a particular reason. So I gave you the actual number of married, and then they also separate the separated. I added the 3%. So that will be 32% in 2022. I just want to be clear. Hitting it from all angles. And when I say black women, I'm talking about all black women. Now, in 2022, 87% of married black women were married to non-black men, while 13% were married to non-black men. In 2020, 85% of married black men were married to black women, while 15% were married to non-black women. Fast forward, married black men. 2020, 33%. Now 36%. If you add separated, 39%. A little under 40% of black men are married. Married black men are married. If you add the separated. In 2022, 79% were married to black women, while 21% were married to non-black women. I want to be clear on that. So in that same report, they actually give you a link to go to the population. So basically what you guys are going to see here and how I broke this down so we can have a more accurate description of the numbers. This is the black U.S. population detailed by tables. So if you look at here, it says black population total. The marriage numbers are based off the total black population. So what did I do? Instead of using the U.S. born, I use all black people, because you have the foreign born, which is about 5 million. And they actually break everything down for you as well, even by state, mind you. So you guys can check this information out for yourselves. So what I did for this next picture that you guys are going to see, I simply removed the black people that are reported as younger than 5 years old. You guys see that? I removed younger than 5 years old. I removed 5 to 9 years old. I removed 10 to 14 years old. Let me be clear. I removed 15, 16, and 17, and I kept 18 and 19. I did that by percentage, by 20 percentiles. So you have 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. That adds 100%. You have 5 age categories, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that leaves us with the 18 and 19. That's 40%. So that's how I got this information that you guys are going to see here in a second. So basically what I did was remove those from here, right here, bam, bam. And I did that for both male and female. And remember, these are my approximates. So there were about 6.9 million black males under the age of 18. That is the population that I removed because we don't want to include them in the marriage rates because they are not of legal age to get married. And we're going to use just from 18 and up. Black males over 18, that comes out to 16.1 million. 16.1 million black men over the age of 18. That married population is 5.8 million. That equates to 36%, which you guys just saw, right? Married black men with you when you include separated, 39%. There you go. And that 3% equated to this amount. That's what you guys see right there, the 485,000. So for black females under 18, it was 5.9 million. So if you look here, I want you guys to see something real quick. There's more black men born than black women. However, and this may get very dark, when black men age, we start to die at a younger age. So that's why when we progress into older ages, you see black women start to outnumber black men. So even though there's more black boys that are born, black women still outnumber us when you extrapolate the population numbers out to every age demographic. So that's why you see more black men from 18 and below as opposed to black women. And that's why I talk so much about prevention and so on and so forth. Because a lot of these things that black men are doing are very preventable. You know?
She gets me, I get her. We talk about life, we talk about our religion. You know, if something wrong with me, she gonna let me know.
While Wade has a trusting relationship with his doctor, many black men in America do not. Their reluctance to seek out preventative health care lowers the odds they will survive diseases like prostate cancer.
It's not just prostate cancer, it's cardiovascular disease, it's stroke, it's diabetes. Most of the death is due to preventable or chronic conditions.
Owen Garrick is a doctor and researcher. He wondered what it would take to persuade black men to accept preventative care.
Heart disease, #1 killer in the black community. The violence, even though it's a small minority of black men who are deleting one another, that still counts. Black men, 5.8 or 16.1 million over the age of 18, whereas black females over the age of 18 is now 18.8 million. That's a little over a 2 million difference in the population now. Now, for black women, married black women, 5.4 million. That equates to 29%. We just went over that. And then black women, married black women, when you add separated, is 6 million. 6 million married black women when you add the separated population. So you look here, 6.3 for black men, 6 million for black women. Now, why is that important? The reason why this is important is because there's more black women that are 18 or over than black men. But there's still more married black men. That's why this is important. And not only that, this is not just the African American community. This is amongst all black men and all black women. So when we have this conversation about who wants to get married the most, right? Then we need to start focusing our attention on who needs the most help right now. Black women. That's why I keep telling these panel shows, man, y'all focus on the wrong folks. It only makes sense, guys. Stop using stuff for clickbait and entertainment. I know it feels good to be like, well, black men ain't marriageable. How? All of us are married at a higher rate. Let's keep going. And that's the difference when you add that separated percentage. Remember, from that 18 and over, 565,000. So the marriage difference, if you just look at without separated, is 358,000 more married black men as opposed to black women. And then when you add the married versus separated, there's a higher percentage of black women. So that's why their 3% adds a lot more people, but it's still approximately 277,000 more married black men, even when you add the separated. So do y'all see why I've been trying to stress this? Why I've been telling people to start focusing on black women? That's why you guys continuously see me debunk the narrative that when black men get married to non-black women, they get divorced at a higher rate. Debunk that, because that's going to give black women a false sense of hope. Even when black men do get married to white women, they get divorced immediately, not knowing that even that study was based off of 10 years and higher. So they weren't saying that black men get married 1 year and then the next year they get divorced to black or to white women. No, it was over a 10-year time span. So if black women as a whole increase their interracial marriages, black men increase their interracial marriages at the same rate. But it makes it even worse when you look at that 1 out of 5 married black men are now married to non-black women. So now do y'all understand why I've been trying to be as stern as I am and calling people out for spreading false narratives about black men? The numbers right there, man. This is from the same report from Pew Research. About a sixth of married black adults, 17%, are married to someone who is not black. And we like to talk about this whole black women are race loyal to black men. They're race loyal to a fault. It's not true, because when our numbers increase, black women increase as well. But yet black women are still married to black men at a higher rate. So it's not black women being more race loyal. It's the fact that they may not have as many options as black men. And it shows in the numbers. So that's what that means. So for any black woman that's going out there spreading this false narrative that we don't, if black women like other races of men, then they would date out. I've already did videos on that. Go read the Dating Divide book. Black women have been trying their level best to divest, to swirl. They have books written, commercials, videos, TikTok. They've been promoting swirling and interracial marriage for years. And it's still not working. And that is not the responsibility of black men. Black women who want to swirl or divest have to go to white men or non-black men and ask them why. What do we need to change in order to get married to y'all at a higher rate? Because as of now, white men tend to fancy Hispanic and Asian women as opposed to black women. So if you're a black woman who wants to divest, go ask them what they're doing in order for you to snag a white man. Because y'all giving these white men all this free promotion, pasta, lobster, whatever the hell y'all talk about.
Got a white boy on my roster. He be feeding me pasta and lobster. He just hit me up on Tuesday.
I love when I go on my TikTok and I go through my For You page and I see a bunch of black women with white men, or whatever they call it, pasta, lobster.
Pasta and lobster is like the new trend. White boy winter, white boy summer. As a literal girl who had to deal with a Connor, let's call this person Connor. They are literally no better than black men, and I will die on this hill. Also, decenter men from your life in general. Like, just decenter men and you'll be a lot happier. I never cared about men until I was pressured by everyone to care, and I never did. It never gave I care. So I'm single and happy now. I've always been single. That's the cat. But decenter men are all the same and all men suck. Remember that.
And it's still not working. And white men are eating it up to the point that they will put out false narratives to get y'all to continue giving them money, share their videos, because they know that they can milk y'all for whatever you got and still turn around and not marry you all. And that's why I've learned that black women consider dating a white man as a win, as opposed to marriage. So that's why it really does. I mean, all the free promotion, it doesn't make sense if they're not marrying you. So that's something that black women need to focus on. The ones who want to swirl. You know, I mean, it's fun and games, you know, swirl and black men ain't shit. Well, it's safe to say that white men may think y'all ain't shit either. How about that? Black women, in turn, are slightly more likely than black men to be divorced or widowed. Black men die at a higher or at a lower age. But the key thing is this: the divorce rates. There's more black women than black men. 14% of black women divorced, as opposed to 10% of black men. So do we want to revisit this conversation about who's the most divorced? Huh, black community? Huh, black women who keep sharing these false narratives that white woman put out? Or do you want to end this conversation right here and start to focus on y'all? That's what I thought. The black community is coming far more diverse than more people could ever imagine. And I know we say that it's just, you know, it was bound to happen. I understand that. But nobody would have saw black men, 1 out of 5 married black men being married to non-black women. I wouldn't have predicted that in my lifetime if you look at the 2000 numbers. And now we're here. And you cannot tell me that these conversations and social media doesn't have an effect on the black community and our relationship issues that we have. You can't tell me that. And I know that, you know, this is just a theory, but we need people to stop minimalizing the voices on social media, especially if they're toxic, especially if they're lying to black women and they're lying about black men. They matter. And y'all see why now. Man, it's tough trying to explain the truth and then get labeled as bashing or, you know, oh man, you just a man with a podcast. No, this affects the whole black community. And y'all sitting there playing and trying to get clickbait, and it's serious, man. It's serious.
I've been out of shape. I'm running off another game. I can't feel nothing. It's my fault.